This video is part 3 of the best 100-mile ride in Scotland. We're going from Lochaline to the village of Strontian, where we started. I'll show you how to ride it as a day loop and also as part of this amazing 100-mile century ride. I rode this with a team from Cyclist magazine in 2012 and we tackled the whole route. It's a great loop involving 2 ferries, but the 3 parts can be ridden separately. Part 1 took us to Ardnamurchan Lighthouse, a fantastic out and back ride. Part 2 took us down the Isle of Mull, where there are several route options. This third video will take us through Morvern, back to the village of Strontian where we began. If part 3 is done as a day ride, there's the option to vary the route. Leaving the ferry in Lochaline, we're straight into a hill.
This village is pretty much known for 3 things. First is the diving. There are so many wrecks in the Sound of Mull. This is a great base if you're into your diving. Second, this was the place to which the last remaining population of the islands of St Kilda were evacuated somewhere back in 1930 or something. It wasn't an entirely successful relocation. So you can imagine, when you've lived all your life on remote islands off the Outer Hebrides, some 40 miles into the North Atlantic, this place is going to be quite different. The third thing you would notice if you were taking the gravel bike route out of Lochaline as opposed to the road, it is flatter. And that's a big silica mine, optically pure silica. It goes to make all sorts of optical instruments. And it stayed that way because hundreds of millions of years ago the volcano on Mull covered it over, and only by mining through it did they find it. So there you go, all you needed and wanted or didn't want to know about this village, which also happens to be the start of the Morvern Peninsula.
Out of Lochaline, we're quickly into a tree factory. Forestry is big business here. In time, these pass, and as the road follows a river, we're briefly into a very different environment.
I know it's wrong, but whenever I come down here, I can't help feeling that this bit is a little bit of England. It looks that way. It looks like it belongs in the Yorkshire Dales, perhaps, with the river gently flowing and the broad-leaf trees. It feels very, I don't know, non-Scottish, and yet this is probably what Scotland was like so many years ago, because most of these trees are quintessential Scottish trees. Oaks, alders, birch, they're all there. It's also the pause before we start heading up into the higher, more barren ground. This is the Scotland we're expecting. And of course, just as I get to the high ground, the weather has broken. I have a friend who does this ride every year with a group of mates from the Central Belt, and he's written up for magazines calling it the best century ride in Scotland. But he does it the other way around, which is fair enough. But by the time they get to what we did in part 1, Kilhone, no one's got the legs to do the 12 hilly miles out to the lighthouse and back. And I think that's a waste, which is why I prefer doing it this way around. We agree to disagree.
At this point, you have an important decision to make. When I rode this with Cyclist magazine, we got off to a relatively slow start. We're chasing our tails all day, and if we wanted dinner, we had to go back the relatively fast way to Strontian, and that's the way I'm going to ride today. However, if you go this way, which is known locally as the Kingairloch Loop, then you will clock up 100 miles. You will do the best century ride in Scotland. So the way I'm going, I get to ride a fantastic descent from the Liddesdale Hill.
The only problem is you've got to get to the top of that hill first. And for some reason it's always longer and steeper than I remember it.
The descent is steep and my eyes are on the road, not the camera.
I'm now on my local ride around Lochaline, passing the rental estate cottages and reaching the head of the loch where we swim most weeks of the year. All of this part has been on single-track roads.
Which brings us back to where we started in the village of Strontian. That's the ride I did with Cyclist Magazine in 2012. Whether you do the full Wild West ride or whether you do them as 3 separate day rides, the route is absolutely fantastic, and you'll find all the mapping on Komoot linked with GPS files from the description of these videos. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please give me a thumbs up. If you've already subscribed, then thank you. If you haven't, then come on, what are you waiting for? I'll try to keep you entertained. I'm Simon Willis, thank you for watching. Take a look at my channel, you might find something else you like. Until next time, bye bye.